10, there'll be a
Apologies, it didn't connect.
we'll be having a discussion in this meeting to make a recommendation during the next
So it's
meeting.
not in this meeting, it's the next meeting.
So this meeting will be passing a recommendation to the following meeting.
Yeah. So I can't comment on the parking in that borough.
You can, or you can do so in the next meeting, whichever you prefer.
Well, if I just said to you that when Sainsbury's took on their business, there was a sign that said there was a certain amount of free parking for people in that borough. That sign's been removed. Lidl's did the same. They all got planning permission to get businesses put into this town. We have a company that with M&Co, which I think is terrible. I don't know who owns M&Co. I don't know who owns a car park. That caused a problem to M&Co when parking was put in place. Do you get where I'm
Parking
coming from?
restrictions,
That
yeah.
was against their business. I'm not saying that's why they folded, but moving forward with our car park, do we have a profit of what Brecon made on that car park for the last 10 years and a loss expenditure to Brecon? If they've had the car park that length of time, do we have those figures? What I'm saying is a lot of things hurt a town. Sainsbury's have actually hurt a town because there was a sign saying that you could park for 3 hours. And other companies took it over and it is no longer 3 hours. You park for 90 minutes and you have to move on. The same with Lidl's. They all got planning permission, but over a period of time, have the council looked into it? Why that has lapsed? Why has that moved on? Why is it different to what the planning application was? That's basically what I'm asking. And moving forward, our car park, does that mean that 5 years' time we take on the burden, if you like? What is the cost? All I as a taxpayer out borough is what is the cost, what has the cost been, what has the revenue been, and do each equate to each other that our town would run that car park as a benefit.
Thank you. I do know we do have Sarah and Ralph sitting just in front of you from the council here this evening. Ralph was nodding and seems to have been taking note of what you've been saying, so he might be able to during the meeting answer some of the points that you've raised. In regards to the planning conditions with both Sainsbury's and Lidl's, that's not something that I've been aware of, but I can certainly put my district hat on.
The question was, there used to be a sign up as you go through, as you look from London Road at the building, you've got the garage, there's an arch. There used to be a sign saying what the parking conditions were. As soon as another company took on, that has been removed. Why has that been removed from what the plan application was and what was applied for? That's all I'm asking.
Councillor Dell seems to have some knowledge.
That was allowed 2 hours parking there because it was a Brecon building. When it was taken down, you could park there apart from a Thursday when they had their meetings.
Yeah.
And when it was taken down, the condition was there was 2 hours free parking in replace of that. So I think I'll ask our clerk to actually get back in touch with Brecon and see if it had a time limit on it. Okay.
Any other members of the public wishing to participate? Simon.
Are the members aware of the outstanding planning proposal for a 9-plot Travellers site on White House Lane? I believe it may be too recent for you to actually consider in this particular forum so far, or at least that's what the information online seems to suggest. So clearly I'm not going to ask you for a decision. That's unreasonable at this point. I do, however, have a procedural question raised by one of my neighbours, whereby if the development should go ahead, will ATC automatically reconsider the traffic flow, etc., around the town, which is already very poor and could easily suffer significantly with the additional traffic caused by this development?
I don't have an answer for you right now. I think that's something that if we have the the planning application presented to us is something that members would at that point discuss and debate. I am aware that I've had some correspondence on this as a member of the planning committee, and maybe I can try and pick up some of those points via that channel. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And we'll move on. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have the minutes of the Planning and Highways Committee on the 15th of September 2025 for acceptance and approval. Does anyone have any amendments?
Could I just say that I did offer my apologies for absence for a period between the 8th and the 24th, but it wasn't because of those minutes. It was on the minutes of the 8th reconvened town meeting.
Can anyone recall if they were actually given? If not, maybe we could just make a note in this evening's minutes to reflect that. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Would you be comfortable with that? Because I can't recall if they were actually given in the previous meeting. Any other comments? No?
Happy to accept, but just to let you know, not accessible on the website yet.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dale, and all in favour, please? They are carried. Thank you very much. Next, we have planning matters. We have application PL 2025-1344 HOU, which is the proposed replacement extensions of existing structures with garage and conversion and dormer upgrades, 25 Connaught Road. Any comments from members? Yes, Councillor Middlebrook.
As always, I've looked at each of the applications. This is basically replacing various buildings with more permanent structures. Although it is on the boundary with the adjacent property, I spoke with the planning officer, or was in contact with the planning officer. They have received the notice. They have not made a letter or submitted a letter of rejection. It's a pity a loss of garage space and conversion to something else, but it appears that there's plenty of room in the front garden for taking up the parking. So I've got no problem.
Okay, no objections?
No.
Next, we have application PL 2025-1378 DCA, discharge and conditions. That's the front of Rosecroft Primary School, London Road, Attleborough. Any comments? No comments. Next, we have an appeal. That's all we did. APP F2 605W 253372 This is the land off Silver Street. Any comments? Naturally looking at Councillor Middlebrook now.
Not on that one, no.
Next, there's reference PL 2025-1324 CLOPUD. And that's an application for a lawful certificate, law development certificate. Do we have any comments?
No, it'd just be good to see a new building go back up where the fire that building was.
And employment again.
And the last application is application PL 2025-1413 HOU, which is a proposed two-storey side extension and single-storey rear extension at 43 Queens Road.
So I let Councillor Middlebrook, you know.
Well, I mean, this is a massive, well, it's more than an extension, it's a doubling of the size of the house. It goes right up to the boundary. It is 2 stories right against an existing dwelling. If it was my dwelling, I would object strongly to it. I have spoken to the owner of the adjacent property, and they confirmed that Breckland have let them know there is an application there. They've looked at the details and they have no objection. So on that basis, I wouldn't object. Otherwise, I wouldn't. Personally, I would have done. I think it's just a very, very large application. And it's also changing the street scene, whereas all the way down Queens Road, you've got individual houses and individual plots. This almost puts 2 very large houses touching together. But if it's the existing dwelling, adjacent dwelling isn't objecting, then neither will I.
No, we looked at this and I totally agree. I thought it was too big. for the site it was on, but it was imposing, but Councillor de Brook has spoken to and they said they're not objecting. I don't see how we can, even if not happy with it. You
Well, the
know,
other thing is, if they do further object, then they can ask for a party hall agreement and deal with it under those measures.
So no objections on any of those applications. Sarah, would you like a resolution to that effect, or just a little bit in the minutes?
Yeah, I think we'll have a resolution that we've made no comments or no objections.
Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Middlebrook, seconded by Councillor Dale, all in favour, please. That's all on the committee and one abstention from yourself. Next, we have highways. Item A is to consider the Queen's Road crossing. Everyone's had this or should have done in email and in the meeting papers. Does anyone have any comments?
where is it actually going to go?
So the request that the council made some time ago, that was supported by the district and by the county council as well, was for a crossing further up Queen's Road towards Cyprus Road,
Yeah,
where the foot traffic is to the schools via the alleyway. What I make of this is that what they're proposing is one further down Queen's Road, closer to Queen Square, by Lidl's.
It's literally dead opposite.
Which is-
where the axis where people come between the card shop and the railing.
Yeah.
That's where it's proposing to go, exactly there, because that's where the foot traffic is, and it's done during the majority of the day. The the Cyprus Road proposal is a time-related operation.
Yeah.
Which when the children would be most used when the children are coming to school and going home from the school. The fact that it's not going to come forward, because there's no finances, no anything, even the design stage will take till 2026 and going forward. I think we should support the application or the proposal for that, but also I would ask that we, I don't know who we asked, but when I spoke to Sharon, she said there is an opportunity. There is somebody that works, that deals with crossings, that we asked for a reinstatement of the, I can only call it a lollipop, at the Cyprus Road crossing where all the children are always going to cross. So I would ask if we could take that forward to have another lollipop, please.
That I would have rejected most strongly. I wouldn't have voted for it up near the school, near Cyprus Road. When the accident happened with the child, it was outside Little's. It wasn't anywhere up that end. You know, it was outside Little's. And if you stand there and watch how many people cross, that's where it should be. That's why I was clarifying where, more in favour it further down, because it suits a lot of people, an awful lot of people.
Would your comments be, not all the words in your mouth, but the same as Councillor Middlebrook, that would be the primary location?
Oh,
for a
yes,
crossing,
yes, definitely.
But that we would also want to request
Lollipop
crossing
man
patrol.
or woman or lady or person.
Councillor
Yeah.
Dalton?
Yeah, I just want to raise the fact that at some point previously, we talked about moving the 20-mile-an-hour zone much further down the road towards the junction, the main junction of the A11. So we were looking for them to take it beyond Cyprus Road. That would at least alleviate the chance of accidents happening if they do slow down to 20 at that point. And I don't know whether that went forward any further than the meeting, so we just need to follow up on that.
I can't remember. I can't
Certainly on
remember,
the-
Councillor Dalton, sorry. Had a
The
blank.
proposal for the zebra crossing where they have the now they put a sort of yellowy dressing on the road, that included taking the mile an hour further down. But if we're going to keep the one that actually cross it is, I don't think it went much further. But again, that's something we can request as part of the proposal.
I think we do need to do it.
Okay, so in summary, the proposed location for the crossing is supported.
Mhm.
a request is being made for a crossing patrol for, further down the Cypress Road for schools,
School crossing.
school crossing.
Where they cross.
And also an extension of the 20 mph until beyond Cypress Road.
I think the best place would be where the rear entrance to the cemetery would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Just on that, because you've got a sort of corner goes round to the right hand side in here. If we put it where the cemetery, the rear entrance to the cemetery is, I think if you put it further down, I think that'd be better on that corner coming into the 20 mph there, I think.
I mean,
You've
the
got
roads don't tend to speed so much going up into the town, because there's always traffic.
Yeah.
But coming down, as soon as you get past that bend,
Mhm.
I mean, if I was to step out of my front garden at that point,
Yeah.
it's very rarely are they crawling down there. So the further it goes down, the better.
Yeah, agree.
Have you got that, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And who would like to make that proposal? Councillor Reynolds, seconded by Councillor Dalton. And can I have a show of hands, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, we have item 7B, which is to consider requesting a formal crossing at Rosedale School. I think that's supposed to say Rosecroft School.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did ask Sharon to change it. She has done it on
Some.
the later.
Yeah, later.
Oh, okay. And some of us will know this has been done, well, on more than a few occasions. But does anyone have any comments?
And there's children crossing, there should be a patrol.
So is,
And it's not at our cost either.
no.
So it's, if we can badger, persuade the Joel, anybody to provide in it, let's do it. It's the safety of the children.
So is that a proposal, Councillor Middlebrook, that we
Please.
support the request?
Yes.
And can I have a seconder, please, Councillor Dale?
Mhm.
And all in favour, please? That is also unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have item 8, neighbourhood plan review update for information. Sarah, were you given anything on this item?
All I have is the meeting actions from Steering Group.
Yeah, so to be honest, I was at this meeting. I think the only thing that's really, and I don't know if Sharon's circulated this to everyone else, I asked that she does. But the main thing was that we took part in a mini desktop workshop exercise regarding some of the priorities, and a request was then made to the academy that actually the head students undertake the same exercise and create a video presentation on that. Next we have, do we have any questions on that item? No. Next we have item 9, cemetery, new cemetery land update and approval to carry out groundwater risk assessment for site 3 for consideration and resolution.
Can I just,
Sorry.
as I wasn't at the last meeting, which of the sites was site 3? The location being?
This is land south of Ellingham Road, NR17 1AD.
So it's not the Blackthorn Road one.
No.
Okay. So further out of town than.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if this is the same piece of correspondence. I think it is. So anyone have any comments, Councillor Taylor?
We've got to have a cemetery, sooner or later, we've got to have a cemetery, and it keeps being kicked around. Surely we should actually do something, you know, have the groundwork risk taken, because unless we do, we're not going to know where.
I mean, the the biggest, thing against the cemetery is rising groundwater.
Yes, it is.
Simple as that, or floodwater.
Yeah.
So no planning permission will get approval without that risk assessment. So if we've identified an area, then we should,
I think we should.
and we need a new cemetery, whether it's
Yeah.
in, you know, a short term or a long term. If we've already done that assessment, that part is already ticked, so I'll definitely support it.
So I propose then that we go ahead with the groundwork.
I'll
Any
second.
councillor Ferguson in that? Can I have a show of hands, please? That's unanimous as well. Next, we have item 10, which is the Breckland car park proposal to consider options on offer for leasehold and freehold for consideration and resolution. Members were circulated all of the information on this with each of the proposals that were on the table. Do they have any questions, or would you like to, Sarah Brown, would you like to come in at this point, or just wait for questions?
Happy to go with whatever you would like.
Do members have any questions? Councillor Dalton.
I mean, my preferred option would be to get Queen Square and not to worry about the other two.
I mean, I have a question whether it's a possibility. I mean, we all pay our council tax that goes to Breckland. Breckland use a proportion of that to maintain car parks. From what I read, it was they spent 450,000 on 30 car parks. Well, that's basic maths, 15 grand a car park. We've got 3. I'm only doing complete averages. If we take the car park, shouldn't we get that money back?
Councillor Dalton.
I don't want it to be too simplistic, but as people of the town do pay towards the car parks and everything else, they pay for it as a service. So that goes to Breckland. If you were to pay somebody, and if it was each one of the towns, parishes, or even Breckland, when it gets subsumed into the county or into the new authority, that it will be as if it was theirs, not ours. So we would have no comeback on it, and we'd still be paying the authority anyway. So in that respect, I'm looking forward to the fact that we could purchase at least one of the car parks for the future.
Well, I would much prefer not purchasing it, but it's one of the options that it's, you know, passed to us.
If you took it as each of one of us being an employee, you wouldn't then take somebody else's assets because they got paid for it.
Councillor Bertram.
Yeah, I'd rather wait until we have all the facts and figures before we make a decision, really, because there's a lot of details that are like that, the cost of maintenance, etc. As Councillor Middlebrook mentioned, the money that's already been paid in. Obviously, it's very vague.
Ralph, can I ask you to step in at this point, please?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
I'll see if I can help. First thing to probably comment is this is an option, so there's no requirement for a town council to take forward, you know, acquisition and transfer the car parks. We've offered all 3 car parks, so, and again, there's no compulsion to take all 3, 1, 2 or 3. It's entirely up to you how you want to respond to that as a town council. So if it's just Queen Square car park, we consider that in terms of a response, but we obviously got all 3 there, so you could consider what that would be. Obviously, you're taking your mind back to sort of last year when we were looking at, Breckland was looking at an alternative way to manage the car parks. And there was lots and lots of discussion around potentially bringing in charging for car parks, actually. Local government review at the beginning of the year sort of stopped us from doing that and made us look at something slightly different. We think it was right that we should start sort of like implementing charging when something else is going to happen sort of imminently. When I mean imminently, that's still, I know it's still 2 years away. And we want to look at something different. The whole reason why the council, Breckland Council, is having to do that is because, like any other sort of like local authority in the country, we're having to find savings, we're having to find efficiencies, we're having to find different ways of doing things, we're having to look at all of our services actually and see how we do things differently. And for many, many years, obviously, the whole of Breckland, all of the 30 car parks in Breckland have benefited from being free to the end user. They've not been free car parks because they have been paid for by somebody. So all the costs of running the car parks have been paid by the taxpayers of the whole of Breckland. So we looked at a different model where it would be chargeable to the end user rather than chargeable across every single sort of like taxpayer. And the whole point of doing that is because we had to find a different model to fund those car parks, not through the general council tax, through potentially finding a way to fund those through the end user of the car parks. We're still in that position. We're still trying to find efficiency savings on looking at different ways to do our car parks. Whether the town council and town councils, including the other town councils, do that is entirely, like I say, a decision for you. There is an option, to come back to your point, there is an option where you said, should some of the funding come back to sort of like maintain the car parks. There is one option in the paper which does allow you to have a commuted sum back.
You then buy in the car parks.
Yeah, that has to come with a capital receipt that comes over to us to be able for us to fund back the commuted sum to you. That's the only way that can work, because the financing of receiving the receipt will allow us to do something different with the capital and revenue returns that we get into the council to be able to give the commuted sum back. It's the only way that we can do that, because we're having to find those sort of savings. And I think the gentleman in the public gallery mentioned about the cost of running the car parks. So we did provide that to the clerk back in April 2025 of what the costs were to the Breckland Council running the car parks. How a town council might run the car parks might be different. We're quite happy to share all the overhead costs of how we run the car parks, how we operate the car parks, what contracts we have on the car parks for gritting, for repairs, for maintenance, etc., insurance, etc. Obviously, somebody else might want to run them differently, might not want to pay, certain costs for those running those car parks. But we pass those costs over, so your clerk had those costs available to them. Quite happy to share what they are now if you would like me to, if that would help, so you can see exactly what they are. Yeah, is that okay?
Please.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay, so for all three car parks, 186 spaces. So for per annum, the cost which we calculated of running those car parks in Astra was £35,553. Now, a third of that, 10,000 of that, goes into the business rates. So that's a sort of statutory payment that has to be made. And then we get to a capital contribution into the replacement programme. So that's for resurfacing and large capital amounts. And we calculated over sort of a 10-year programme, a £16,900 payment into a capital replacement programme. Then you've got general repairs and maintenance, sort of, ongoing sort of small minor repairs, which is just under 3,000. An allocation of staff costs, which is just under 3,000. Allocation of winter works, which is sort of gritting, etc., which is about 1,700. And then some services, so any electricity to the lights, water drainage, etc., which is just over £1,000 per annum. So about 35,500 is the cost to us of running the car parks. And I stress that might be different to a different entity who wants to take that on. The car parks don't create any income, so there's no income coming back of them. So that is literally a cost to us at the moment, Breckland Council at the moment, to run those car parks. Gentlemen, was asking whether there's any income coming in.
One question. So
there isn't any income coming in.
Sorry, if I may.
Sorry, I'm just responding to you. Ask me a question.
Well, I need to suspend standing orders to be able
that's
to do that. Councillor Bertram was that proposal, and second please, Councillor Dale, all in favour? That's unanimous, yes.
I've just like to ask a question. That car park was re-tarmacked, what, 2 years ago? 2.5 years ago? What was the cost of that?
The Queen Square,
Queen Square.
I don't have that. I don't know what the number was off the top of my head. I can find it. Did you get it?
That's great.
Yeah,
What I'm
absolutely.
saying is, you give me these figures, it's this much a year, but I would probably, if I equate this to the football club, I would say it's over £100,000. Probably £200,000.
We
try to pay figures that cost us as taxpayers money.
Sure.
Simple as that.
Do you have the figures that you just had that were projections for all 3 car parks? Do you have them just for Queen's Square
Perfect.
as a standalone car park?
So those are their estimated car park, their estimated cost pro rata to the number of car parking spaces.
Okay.
So you could take that and break that down and pro rata it down to just Queen Square. What we don't do, because we have to manage 30 car parks across the whole of the district, we don't manage the car parks on an individual unit cost accounting. So we don't know whether this is just a sort of an average per car parking space.
But
So
surely,
it could be more than that, or
surely
it
you
could
should
be
have
less than
that
that.
information if you want to park a car park to a town. You must have that information about said car park that Brecon want to give to that town. Cost, overhead, revenue, it's a simple thing.
We don't do unit cost accounting.
No, that's what I'm saying. But
We don't-
you're asking,
we can't give
you're
it to
asking
you.
us as a town to take on a car park cost, which we are getting no figures for. We don't know if it makes money, if it runs at a loss. Who knows? I mean,
So
Taylor,
I'll
if you-
say, this isn't a public meeting,
No,
it's
I
a
know
meeting
it's
held
not.
in
I'm just
public.
responding to the question.
And I appreciate that, and I think Ralph's answered it the best he can. What was the sum per car parking space? Did you have that?
I've only got that total, 35,500. I think you've got 186 spaces.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, if you take Edenside and Horsebit, within 10 spaces, it's a 50-50 split. There's 99 and 109. So if it was only Queen Square, then obviously you're talking roughly half of that figure. The first figure you said was a contribution back into the rates. Was that correct? Did I remember that?
Business rates, yeah.
Would that apply to the town council as well?
Yes.
I was just wondering whether there's any of the figures that you have to pay as a district council that we wouldn't as a town council.
The only one of those figures that I quoted in the breakdown, the only one that you definitely have to pay is the business rates. All the others is a choice about how you manage the car parks, how much you want to put into a sinking fund, how much repairs, the level of repair and maintenance you want to do, how much allocation of any staffing costs you want to put towards that. That's all choice. That's the way we've done it. But the one that you have to pay, particularly at that breakdown cost, is the business rate.
But if you're no longer maintaining it because it becomes our responsibility, there's no money back or less money being paid to the council because you're trying to cover other costs, other running costs, etc. Yeah.
Well, we pay ourselves business rates effectively. So Brecon Council has to pay Brecon Council the business rates amount. So it doesn't matter where that is.
It wasn't so much about the rates, it was the fact that, the council tax that we would still pay, but you wouldn't use a proportion of that council tax for maintenance anymore.
No.
Which is why I said at the outset, can't we have a proportion of that back to cover the maintenance? But we're paying you, but you're not using it for that purpose anymore.
No, I think it goes back to what I said at the beginning, we're having to find those efficiency savings, so it doesn't translate directly into a reduction in council tax. Is that, I think, what you're saying, and it doesn't do that.
You said it's a cost saving exercise.
Yeah.
If I may, ultimately, I think at present, the car park is being paid for by the taxpayer, whether it's being paid in taxes to the town council or whether it's been paid in taxes to the district council. I think actually from what I can see, the only difference is at the moment, because it's been, well, worked out on this like accumulated basis where it's actually all of the 30 car parks combined, the difference is actually that car park might have cost far less to maintain, but at present we're actually paying for Watton, Botham, Dereham and Thetford as well.
Yeah.
So, and if their maintenance is far more than what ours is, we're making a greater contribution in tax money to car parks that aren't actually ours, potentially. But I do feel like that element, whether it's like taxpayer money going to Attleborough or to the district, seems like splitting hairs a little bit. And I'm mindful that we are going to repeat this entire debate again on the next agenda,
Yes.
for which we're already running 6 minutes late. So if I may, just to speed things up, can we either make a recommendation or press pause on the debate and pick it up in full council? Councillor
I
Bertram.
propose that we pause it and pick it up in full council.
I'll second.
Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just think that by the time we come full circle to a recommendation, we would be here probably far longer than we need to be. Sarah, are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you. If I may then. We now have a public participation. Likewise, we do have one in the next meeting.
Really quick, Taylor, just on the crossings, which I don't know the answer, but consider when you're putting in a crossing and a lollipop person less than 100 yards in between, what that could do to traffic flow around the whole town and stuff. Just as an observation to think about. And both are hard problems to solve. You've got stupid kids running across the road and people crossing their littles all day. But running two at the same time at the busiest time of the day, we all know what that one-way system can be like when one thing goes wrong.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, where the monument is, I see it every day. I'm courteous, you're courteous, everyone's courteous. You got kids just, they think it is a zebra crossing. It's not. It says stop. You know, if you could just move it down slightly. I know you get Cypress Road coming in. Just move it up slightly from Cypress Road. Do away with that, but cut it through. They all end up at the same stop. They all come out the same stop.
Thank you.
You know.
Well, on that note, I will draw this meeting. Does anyone have any items to the next agenda? Councillor Middlebury.
Not that we've had the need in the meetings I've been to so far, but if we're going to discuss planning applications, is there any way that we can have a means of projecting the plans or something so that we could actually talk about them, whether it's standard point, as opposed to just, in my case, if I needed to, holding up bits of paper and which people can't see from that far away. I must admit, I somehow had to understand there was a telly in there, but obviously there isn't.
We do have a projector. I don't think that's too much of a tall order.
But not necessarily for every time, but if there are applications that are more detailed, that, you know, when somebody's just trying to describe something where you could just go up and point.
Or even controversial.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. On that note, I'll bring this meeting to a close and we'll move on to full council. Does anyone want, I know some of us have had 2 minutes back to back. Does anyone want a couple of minutes, couple of break, or are we happy to go straight in? Should we we'll start with the